guys, welcome to the Sports Note for Friday, September 15th. I know I'm in the office for the first time in several weeks here, but we've got a full slate of college football coming up this weekend. We got a couple of rivalry games, but no jump off the page type games. Those are coming next week, trust me. But there's one that's getting a little bit more traction. It's with everyone's favorite shiny new toy, the Colorado Buffaloes, and head coach Deion Sanders, aka Coach Prime. And then this weekend in Boulder, for the first time in a number of years, and we'll talk about that here in a second, we've got the Colorado State Rams and the Colorado Buffaloes, the 18th ranked Colorado Buffaloes, for these in the Centennial Cup. Now, this has really not been much of a rivalry at all over the years, with the sheer idea that Colorado is absolutely dominating in this series, and they've also won the last 5, with the last 4 being by at least 2 scores. Now, this game is returning back to Boulder after more than a decade, as really since 1998, this game has been held at Invesco Field at Mile High and their new stadium, the home of the NFL's Denver Broncos. And back in 2015, Colorado University at Boulder recommended that the series kind of shift back to the 2 campuses in Boulder and Fort Collins, where Colorado State is located, but also indicated that it may not be advantageous to continue the rivalry at that particular point, because it really wasn't much of a rivalry. You also look at some of the other big name schools out there in terms of the primary state schools. Ohio State typically will play like a Youngstown State or an Ohio or a Toledo, and they'll whoop up on them. It's a payday for the small school. It's an interstate game, so to speak, for Ohio State. Oklahoma and Tulsa play every year. You can't think of the last time Tulsa actually beat Oklahoma when Oklahoma wasn't completely rebuilding. You could go on and on and on and on about, all of these. Every state's got one. And this is the example for Colorado, because they're the only 2 major Division I schools in that state. Now, Colorado State's coming off a 3-9 year, and they're in their second year under head coach Jay Norvell. Now, Norvell actually came to the program after turning the Nevada program around, where he was there for 5 years, getting them to bowl games in the last 4. Norvell actually took a swipe at Sanders earlier this week, really within the last 48 hours, and it was namely directed at how Sanders kind of presents himself to the media in press conferences. Now, we're long since the days of Hank Stram, Tom Landry, Paul Brown wearing full suits on sidelines, still well past that age in college football as well. We all know that Sanders has a tendency to be, flashy, even with his short tenure at Jackson State the last couple of years, and now certainly trying to make that same impact at Boulder with the Buffaloes in their last season in the Pac-12 before they go to the Big 12 next year. Actually, I should say return to the Big 12 next year. And Norvell, 60 years old, has an even 500 coaching record. Sanders is 2-0 out the chute. He's got the Buffaloes already up to 18th after pulling that big upset in the opening week against TCU. But let's also keep in mind that TCU lost 8 starters to the NFL draft, including quarterback Max Duggan. So he's got Colorado going in the right direction. But Sanders, again, trying to be a little flashy, has certainly turned that program on its head and turned the college football world on its ear. Norvell said, when I talk to grown-ups, quote, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and sunglasses off. That's the way my mama raised me, end quote. Sanders, in multiple press conferences, still has a Colorado hat on, dark sunglasses, still has some of his gold chains on, certainly has them on the sidelines on Saturdays. and also coming off of hip surgery or leg surgery or something really back over the summer, is going to be sitting down for the next few weeks while he continues to recover. It's only given Sanders' bulletin board to go out and absolutely blow the doors off of the Rams in the first half tomorrow. This is certainly not a case where David is going to beat Goliath. Colorado State is not a very good program, and Colorado really, this is their last opportunity to kind of prove themselves before reality kind of slaps them in the face, so to speak. Colorado State is going to finish in the middle of the pack in the Mountain West, or the bottom end of it, more specifically. They're not likely to go to a bowl game. Colorado at this particular point, with a win, could actually shoot themselves into the top 15. However, their next two games are against the Oregon Ducks and USC, two teams that are fighting for the Pac-12, not only the Pac-12 championship, but also to get themselves into the college football playoff at the end of the season. And these are two of the likeliest members to get in out of the Pac-12, where the Pac-12 has got 8 teams in the top 25 right now. As a matter of fact, the Pac-12 is so good that Colorado State, Arizona State, and Stanford are the only 3 of Colorado's remaining 9 games that are not currently ranked. That's absolutely unheard of. As it stands right now, Colorado has the toughest schedule in America. They beat TCU, who was ranked. They beat Nebraska. They've got Oregon, who's 13th right now, next week. USC is currently 5th. UCLA is 24th. Oregon State 16th. Washington State 23rd. And then they finish up in Provo. I'm sorry, not in Provo. In Utah, who's currently ranked 12th. So again, only 3 remaining teams, and 4 out of their entire schedule not currently ranked. And again, this will finish up the out of conference portion of their schedule. I also take that back. They do play Arizona, which is basically a walk for them. But that's actually coming off the Oregon State game, and then they get to turn around and go up to Puyallup to play the Cougars before finishing up in Utah to play the Utes, where the Utes have actually played spoiler to the Ducks the last few years. But this is definitely a scenario where Sanders is going to try to run the score up to prove a point, although he's going to say he's going to want to be respectful to Norvell. As quite honestly, Sanders is in the spot, I should say Norvell is in the spot that Sanders should be. Sanders is the shiny new toy. There has not been this much hype around a first-year Division I coach since Jim Harbaugh got to Ann Arbor back in 2015. And Harbaugh was inching closer, fell short to Ohio State, beat the doors off of Ohio State the last 2 years, got to the college football playoff each of the last 2 years after winning the Big Ten regular and postseason championships. Colorado is trending the right way and is probably going to be a lot more competitive to get a conference championship once they shift back to the Big 12, especially after the Big 12 is going to be losing Texas and Oklahoma after the season. But this is not something where Norvell wanted to kind of tug at Superman's cape, spit in the wind, don't mess around with Jim if I can actually pull the line off the old Jim Croce song. Good idea on paper to kind of ruffle a couple of feathers, but not when Colorado's playing this good. If this was something that maybe a second, third year in Colorado was kind of come back to earth a little bit, possibly. It's also something that Sanders is going to certainly use this to kind of get off his chest, so to speak, before, again, the next 2 weeks, which the 2 toughest games on their entire schedule is going to turn around and literally slap him in the face. So let me know what you guys think. A little bit of a shorter one this week. How big is this win going to be? Is this game going to be over at halftime? Is this game going to be over by the end of the third quarter? Is there a miraculous scenario where Colorado State pulls the upset as a 24-point underdog? The over-under on this game is 63, and who's to say that Colorado doesn't get there on their own tomorrow? But Mike and I will be with you guys tonight for the Wise Guys as our normal Saturday time slot. I got plans tomorrow night. We talked about that at the end of last week's show. We'll be back with you guys in our regular Saturday slot on the 23rd. And then we've got the big Ohio State Notre Dame watch along on the 30th, and then we'll have our NBA and NHL previews coming up. That first show in October, the Wise Guys live show from Jacksonville is inching ever closer, and I will see you guys here probably sometime next week. And everyone take care. Have a great weekend.